Today, we will be going over every deck in Yu Yu Hakusho for Union Arena. So the first deck that we will be going over is the green Yusuke deck, and we'll be going over all the important cards of the deck. So the first card that we'll be looking at is the 7 cost 1 action point Yusuke. That is a raid card that says when played, this character gains snipe until the end of the turn. When attacking, choose one of the following. This character gains when this character attacks and is not blocked. Choose up to one character on your opponent's front line and switch it to resting until the end of the turn. Or you can choose this character gains impact 1 until the end of the turn. So more than likely you want to combine the ability to gain snipe and also impact so you can knock out an opposing card while also dealing 1 damage. So of course this card reminds me a lot of the 7 cost Kurapika card that also can gain snipe and impact 1. And also this card has 5000 BP, which is pretty good. So our next card is the 4 cost 1 action point Yusuke. That is a raid card that says when played, draw 2 cards, then place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. When attacking, choose one of the following. Choose up to 1 character on your field and place the top card of your deck face down under it. You may place 1 face down card under this character into your sideline. If you do, this character gains impact 1 until the end of the turn, and this card has 4000 BP. So note that more than likely, because you can only choose one of the 2 abilities when attacking, this card cannot gain impact 1 on the turn it is played, unless you use another card to place a card face down underneath it, and that is possible with the next cards that we will be showing. So this is a card that allows you to fulfill a lot of the synergies in your deck, and this is a 3 cost 1 action point Koenma. That says during your turn, when a character on your field activates a choose one of the following ability, you may switch this active character to resting and place 1 face down card under it into your sideline. If you do, that ability becomes choose 2 of the following instead. When played, if on the energy line, switch this character to active, so this is great to be able to use the previous ability. Also, activate main, switch to resting. Once per turn, place the top card of your deck face down underneath this character. And this card is the color trigger of the deck with 3000 BP and generates 2 energy. So note that this ability to be able to choose 2 abilities will also work with the following cards. So they are the 3 cost 1 action point Yusuke that says activate main once per turn, choose one of the following. This character gains 1 green energy generation until the start of your next turn. Or this character generates energy even if it is on the front line until the start of your next turn. So if you're able to use the ability of the previous card to allow it to choose 2 abilities, you can actually gain 2 energy generation when this card is in the front line. And our next card is the 1 cost 1 action point Yusuke that says when played, you may place the top card of your deck face down under this character. Activate main, switch to resting once per turn. Place 1 face down card under this character into your sideline. If you do, choose one of the following. Reduce the required energy of your next Yusuke card you perform raid with from your hand this turn by 1. Choose up to 1 other character on your field. It gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. So both of these cards allow you to ramp up to be able to play your 7 cost raid Yusuke. And now we have our second green deck, which is the green Kazuma deck, and we'll be going over the important cards of the deck. So the main card of the deck is the 4 cost 1 action point Kazuma that has inherently nullify impact whether this card is raided or not. But when raided, this character when played gains your opponent must block this character's attack if able until the end of the turn. Also when sideline, if Yukina is on your field, return up to 1 base card of this raided character to your hand. So this allows you to not lose too much card advantage when this card is sidelined. And a card that works really well with the previous card is the 2 cost 1 action point Kazuma that says when played, choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line with BP less than the highest BP of any other character on your field and switch it to resting, and this card has 3000 BP. So note that you can use this card in 2 ways. Either rest a big card on your opponent's field if that is the only card on their field to be able to get past it, or you can actually choose a smaller card so that you can use your raided Kazuma to be able to knock out a 4000 BP character if they're forced to block with that one. And now we have the special of the deck, which is the 4 cost 1 action point Spirit Sword. So note that this card does not play like most specials. This card reads, choose 1 character on your field that gains 1000 BP. When this character attacks and wins a battle, play up to 1 green character card with 2 or less required energy and 1 AP cost from your sideline set to resting onto your field until the end of the turn. If the chosen character is Kazuma, it also gains snipe until the end of the turn. So this allows you to effectively knock out an opposing card if you are able to pump up a Kazuma on your field. And it also allows you to play an extra card to gain tempo. And now we have our 3 cost 1 action point Genkai that reads Raid. At the start of your turn, place the top card from this raided character into your sideline, then draw a card. When played, choose up to one character on your field and move it to the other line. Then choose up to one character with 3,500 or less BP on your opponent's front line and switch it to resting. So even though this card effectively eliminates herself from the field, you can use it as like 4,500 blocker or beater to be able to do some damage while she is still on the field. And note that this card is really good when raided on your opponent's turn because you can effectively block an opposing 4,000 BP character. And you can also, when played, choose a smaller character in your opponent's field and switch it to resting. And now we have our 2-cost 1-point Genkai that says when played, choose up to one character with 2 or less required energy on your energy line and switch it to active. And this is the color trigger of the deck with 3000 BP. And this card works very well with the next card, which is the 2-cost 1-point Yukina that says activate main, switch to resting, choose one other character on your field, it gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. Also activate main, switch to resting, sideline this card. Choose one Kazuma card on your field, it gains impact 1 until the end of the turn. And now we have the 4-cost 1-point Yusuke that we saw before. So this card is a very good utility card in this deck, since this card allows you to filter cards through drawing and discarding. But also this card is the only way for this deck to gain impact 1. And now we have our first purple deck of the IP, which is the purple Toguro deck. And we'll be going over the important cards of this build. So the most important card is the 8-cost 1-point younger Toguro. That is a raid card that says impact 1 inherent, also damage 3 inherent. Also when played, all characters on your opponent's front line lose 1000 BP until the end of the turn. Choose up to one character with 4000 or less BP on your opponent's front line and sideline it. So effectively this can knock out an opposing card with 5000 BP, while also minusing all your opponent's cards by 1000 BP. And of course this card comes in at a monster 5000 BP, so a very strong card. And note that this card says this character can only be played by performing raid with it, so you cannot hard play this card. And now we have our other raid, which is the 5-cost 1-point Karasu that says raid during your opponent's turn. This character cannot be chosen by abilities on your opponent's characters that are not raided. Also when played, draw 2 cards, then place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. If there's a character with 3000 or less BP on your opponent's front line, draw 2 cards instead. And this comes in with 4000 BP. So this is a great card that allows you to gain a lot of utility while having a slight defensive ability. And now we have our 5-cost 1-point younger Toguro. That is a non-raid card that says activate main if on the front line once per turn, sideline one other character on your field. If you do, choose up to one character in your opponent's front line. It loses 2000 BP until the end of the turn, and this character gains impact 1 until the end of the turn. So this card will effectively allow you to sideline a chump blocker on your opponent's field, while also gaining impact, which is very important in the late game. And now we have our 3-cost 1-point Sakio that says when played, choose one of the following. If a character on your field has been sidelined this turn, play up to 1 purple card with 2 or less required energy and 1 AP cost from your hand set to resting onto your field. Or you may return 1 character on your field with 2 or less required energy to your hand. If you do, choose up to 1 other character on your field. It gains 2000 BP until the end of the turn. So note that this card works very well with the previous card, since it already fulfills the condition that 1 card has been sidelined this turn. And I'll be looking at the 1-cost 1-point younger Toguro that says this character can only attack if a character on your field has been sidelined by one of your abilities this turn. This character cannot block characters with 3500 or less BP. Also activate main if on the front line once per turn, sideline one other character on your field. If you do, draw a card and give this character. This character generates energy even if it is on the front line until the end of the turn. And note that this card has a very impressive 4000 BP for only 1 energy. And now we have our 0-cost 1-point Elder Toguro. That is a non-raid card that inherently has Nullify Impact. During your turn, when this character is sidelined or returned to your hand from your field, reduce the required energy of all younger Toguro cards in your hand by 2 this turn until the next younger Toguro is played onto your field. So note that this effect can stack, so if you have multiple Elder Toguros that have been sidelined or returned to your hand, you can effectively reduce all younger Toguro cards in your hand by 2 for each one. When sidelined, you may place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, add this card to your hand. So this is a great way to recycle this card after this card has been sidelined. And now we have our second purple deck, which is the purple Jin deck, and we'll be going over the key cards of the deck. So one of the most important cards is the 4-cost 1-point Jin that says raid. Your opponent cannot choose this character with an ability on an event card unless they place 1 card from their hand into your sideline as an additional cost. When played, choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line and move it to their energy line. So very similar to all the red Kenshin abilities that push back a character from their front line to their energy line. And note that this card has 4000 BP. So as you can see already, a lot of the core mechanics of this card is to be able to push back cards into your opponent's energy line so that they have a full energy line. And our next card is a 4-cost 1 action point Shishi Wakamaru. That says during your turn, this character gains 500 BP, going up to 4000 from 3500. When played, if your opponent's energy line is not full, you may place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line and move it to their energy line. So this will allow you to try to make your opponent's energy line full. And this works well with the 4-cost action point True that says play this character set to active onto your field. When played, this character gains 1000 BP and damage 2 until the end of the turn. Also when attacking, if your opponent's energy line is full, draw a card, and this comes in with 4000 BP, but can go up to 5000 on the turn this card is played. So as you can see, this card definitely benefits from when your opponent's energy line is full. And now we have our special of the deck, which is the 3-cost action point Tornado Fist. And this card says choose up to 1 character with 5000 or less BP on your opponent's front line and move it to their energy line. If Jin is on your field, draw a card. So note that unlike most specials, this special will not sideline an opposing card. It will simply just push it back into the energy line, but you do get to draw a card. And now we have our red Yoko deck, and we'll be going over the key cards of the deck. So of course, the main card is our 6-cost 1 action point Yoko. So this card raids on Kurama, and during your turn, this character gains all abilities listed below if it has the required amount of BP. So for 5000 or more BP, it gains Impact 1. For 8000 or more BP, it gains Snipe. When played, this character gains 3000 BP until the end of the turn. Also activate main. If on the front line, place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. This character gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. So this card starts at 4000 BP, so you effectively need to use both of these abilities to get it to 8000 BP to gain both Impact 1 and Snipe. And our next card is a 4-cost 1 action point Yoko that says this card is also treated as Kurama, and this card of course raids on Kurama, and says activate main. If on the front line, once per turn, choose 1 character on your field, it gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. Activate main, place 2 cards from your hand into the sideline. Once per turn, this character gains double attack until the end of the turn, and this card has 4000 BP. So note that you can use its BP pumping ability either on itself to get it to 5000 BP or to use it on the previous card to get up to that 5000 BP to gain Impact 1. But every turn you can also discard 2 cards to give this card double attack. And now we have our 1-cost 1 action point Kurama that says when performing raid on this character, if you have 3 or less cards in your hand, draw a card. When played, you may place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, choose up to 1 other character on your field. It gains 2000 BP until the end of the turn. So note that this is a great card to be used as a raid target for any of your raid Kuramas, because it would allow you to draw a card, which is good because it will fuel your discard abilities to gain extra effects. And now we have our 5-cost 2 action point Kurama that says play this character set to active onto your field. Also when played, draw cards until you have 3 cards in your hand. And this card starts with 4000 BP. So this card is really good after you have discarded cards for your raid Kuramas, because this will effectively allow you to draw 3 cards if you have 0 cards in your hand after playing this card. And now we have our special of the deck, which is our 4-cost 1 action point Rose Whip that says choose 1 character with 3000 or less BP on your opponent's front line and sideline it. If you have 3 or less remaining cards in your hand, 5000 or less BP instead. So note that effectively, if this card is the 4th card in your hand, you can effectively use its last effect, because when this card is actually in play, you will have 3 cards in your hand. And now we have our Sight, which is the 3-cost 1 action point Rose Whip Thorn Wheel that says activate main. Once per turn. You can only activate this ability on the turn this Sight is played. Choose 1 Kurama on your front line. It gains your opponent cannot choose this character with abilities on characters or triggers until the start of your next turn. And note that this card has a get trigger and generates 2 energy. So the reason why this effect is worded this way is so that you can first play this card for energy, and then after you have played your raid Kuramas, you can use this protection ability. And now our second red deck is the red event Hiei deck, and we'll be going over the important cards of this deck. So the most important card is our raid Hiei, that is 4-cost 1 action point, that says during your turn, if you have used an event card this turn, this character gains Impact 1. Also when played, if it is your turn, use up to 1 Dragon of the Darkness Flame card from your sideline by ignoring its required energy and paying its AP cost. Play any card used with this ability into your removal area instead of your sideline, and this card has 4000 BP. So what is this dragon card? It effectively is just the special of the deck. So nothing really different about the special, except that you can use your raid here to reuse it from the sideline. And now we have our 4-cost 1 action point Yusuke. That is a raid card that has inherently Nullify Impact, but also when played, draw a card. If you have used 2 or more event cards this turn, draw 2 cards instead. And this card has 4000 BP. So obviously this card works very well in a deck that uses a lot of event cards. And we also have our 4-cost 1 action point Hiei that says when attacking, draw a card, then place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. If you have used 2 or more event cards this turn, draw a card instead, and this card has 4000 BP. So as you saw, this deck really needs a lot of event cards to properly fuel its synergies. So we will be playing our 2-cost 1 action point Fear My Jagan Eye that says choose up to 1 character on your field and gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. Choose up to 1 of your AP cards and switch it to active. And this card has a draw trigger. So on its own, this card is not very strong, so effectively it allows us to play event cards without using any of our AP cards because it will get refunded. And then for the other event cards, we have our 3-cost 1 action point Just an Afterimage, which is the AP restand card of the deck. And of course our special of the deck, which is the 4-cost 1 action point Dragon of the Darkness Flame. And the last card that we'll be looking at is the 3-cost 1 action point Yukina. That says when played, reduce the AP cost of the next event card you use from your hand or sideline this turn by 1. So a great ability to be able to play more event cards per turn. Also activate main, switch to resting. You can only activate this ability if you have used an event card this turn. Look at the top card of your deck and place it on the top or bottom of your deck. Alright, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe for more videos.